Today we'll be discussing about environmental, social, and governance, also known as ESG. In this video, we'll explore what ESG is, why it is important, and how business can incorporate it into their operation. First and foremost, what is ESG and what does it actually entail? ESG refers to the three key factors that measure the sustainability and ethical impact of companies' operation. E stands for the environmental factor, while S stands for social factor, while G stands for governance factor. Environmental factors such as how the company interacts with the natural world, which include their carbon footprint, waste management, and resource conservation. The social factor encompasses how a company treats its employees, the customers, and the communities. It also includes likely issues like diversity, human rights, and community engagement. While governance factors center around the internal system and structure that governs a company decision-making process, such as board diversity, executive compensation, and transparency. Now, why should a company integrate ESG principle into its business? Now, it has shown that companies that patronize ESG are better positioned to attract and retain top talents, enhance brand reputation, and mitigate risk associated with environmental and social issues. Also, consumers and investors are increasingly looking for companies that demonstrate a commitment to sustainability and ethical practice, making ESG a key determinator in today's competitive landscape. So, how does a company incorporate ESG into its operation? It all starts with a commitment from senior leadership to integrate ESG consideration into the strategic decision-making of the company. This is by setting ESG goals, implementing ESG policy and procedure, and regularly reporting ESG performance to stakeholders. Companies can also engage with ESG-related agencies and indexes to benchmark their performance against industrial peers and drive continuous improvement. It is a fundamental shift in how business operates in the 21st century. By putting environmental, social, and governance factors, companies can create value for all stakeholders while contributing to a more sustainable and equitable society. Whether you are a business leader, investor, or consumer, remember that ESG matters and how the power to drive positive change in the world. Thank you. And join us on May 1st for more exciting section on ESG.
Hello everyone and welcome to this session. Today we'll be discussing ESG as a business value strategy. As you learned in the previous video, ESG is environment, social, and governance framework. ESG for businesses represents a fresh approach for corporations to delve into and evaluate their ethical perspectives, emphasizing a diverse array of factors that promote societal welfare, social ethics, environmental preservation, and sustainable business strategies. ESG should be an important part of any corporate or portfolio manager's business strategy. Research has shown that intangible assets can add serious value to a company, appealing to investors and improving their social standing. For example, companies that have a strong ESG strategy are generally more attractive to investors. In short, ESG not only improves society, but will also add value to your portfolio. ESG complements many of the United Nations sustainability goals, Thus, the principles should be at the heart of any company's growth strategy as it adds value to the company and generates profits in most cases. An overwhelming weight of accumulated research finds that companies that pay attention to environmental, social, and governance concerns do not experience a drag on value creation. In fact, quite the opposite. A strong ESG plan, supported by positive actions, proves that a company is willing to work in a transparent, environmentally friendly, sustainable, and socially responsible way. This kind of reputation can pay dividends in many ways. According to McKinsey Quarterly, 5 ways that ESG creates value, the report highlights 5 important ways ESG links to cash flow. These are facilitating top-line growth, reducing costs, minimizing regulatory and legal interventions, increasing employee productivity, and optimizing investment and capital expenditures. However, it's not all good news. If executed incorrectly, an ESG strategy can backfire. Terms like greenwashing are becoming everyday terms. Greenwashing is the art of deliberately misleading consumers and audiences by claiming that a practice, product, or business is environmentally friendly or sustainable when it isn't. ESG is not just a buzzword, it's a powerful framework for creating value while addressing some of the world's most pressing challenges. By prioritizing environmental stewardship, social responsibility, and sound governance, businesses can build a brighter future for everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this introduction has inspired you to explore ESG further, and you can by being a part of the Lagos Environment Lecture Series, where we will be discussing
ESG. In this video, we'll explore what ESG is, why it is important, and how business can incorporate it into their operation. First and foremost, what is ESG and what does it actually entail? ESG refers to the 3 key factors that measure the sustainability and ethical impact of companies' operation. E stands for the environmental factor, YS stands for social factor, YG stands for governance factor. Environmental factors such as how the company interacts with the nature world, which include their carbon footprint, waste management, and resource conservation. The social factor encompasses how a company treats its employee, the customers, and the communities. It also includes likely issues like diversity, human rights, and community engagement. While governance factors center around the internal system and structure that governs a company decision-making process, such as board diversity, executive compensation, and transparency. Now, why should a company integrate ESG principles into its business? Now, it has shown that companies that prioritize ESG are better positioned to attract and retain top talents, enhance brand reputation, and mitigate risk associated with environmental and social issues. Also, consumers and investors are increasingly looking for companies that demonstrate a commitment to sustainability and ethical practice, making ESG a key determinator in today's competitive landscape. So, how does a company incorporate ESG into its operation? It all starts with a commitment from senior leadership to integrate ESG consideration into the strategic decision-making of the company. This is by setting ESG goals, implementing ESG policy and procedure, and regularly reporting ESG performance to stakeholders. Companies can also engage with ESG-related agencies and indexes to benchmark their performance against industrial peers and drive continuous improvement. It is a fundamental shift in how business operates in the 21st century. By putting environmental, social, and governance factors, companies can create value for all stakeholders while contributing to a more sustainable and equitable society. Whether you are a business leader, investor, or consumer, remember that ESG matters and how the power to drive positive change in the world. Thank you. And join us on May 1st for more exciting section on ESG.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. Today, we'll be discussing ESG as a business value strategy. As you learned in the previous video, ESG is environment, social, and governance framework. ESG for businesses represents a fresh approach for corporations to delve into and evaluate their ethical perspectives, emphasizing a diverse array of factors that promote societal welfare, social ethics, environmental preservation, and sustainable business strategies. ESG should be an important part of any corporate or portfolio manager's business strategy. Research has shown that intangible assets can add serious value to a company, appealing to investors and improving their social standing. For example, companies that have a strong ESG strategy are generally more attractive to investors. In short, ESG not only improves society, but will also add value to your portfolio. ESG complements many of the United Nations sustainability goals. Thus, the principles should be at the heart of any company's growth strategy, as it adds value to the company and generates profits in most cases. An overwhelming weight of accumulated research finds that companies that pay attention to environmental, social, and governance concerns do not experience a drag on value creation. In fact, quite the opposite. Strong ESG plan, supported by positive actions, proves that a company is willing to work in a transparent, environmentally friendly, sustainable, and socially responsible way. This kind of reputation can pay dividends in many ways. According to McKinsey Quarterly, 5 ways that ESG creates value, the The report highlights 5 important ways ESG links to cash flow. These are facilitating top-line growth, reducing costs, minimizing regulatory and legal interventions, increasing employee productivity, and optimizing investment and capital expenditures. However, it's not all good news. If executed incorrectly, an ESG strategy can backfire. Terms like greenwashing are becoming everyday terms. Greenwashing is the art of deliberately misleading consumers and audiences by claiming that a practice, product, or business is environmentally friendly or sustainable when it isn't. ESG is not just a buzzword, it's a powerful framework for creating value while addressing some of the world's most pressing challenges. By prioritizing environmental stewardship, social responsibility, and sound governance, businesses can build a brighter future for everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this introduction has inspired you to explore ESG further, and you can by being a part of the Lagos Environment Lecture Series, where we will be discussing
Everyone, you're welcome to Lagos Environment Lecture Series, the first edition of 2025. And today we'll be discussing ESG in emerging markets, challenges and opportunities. I will be your moderator for this event. My name is Wande Seriki. Please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. We'll be pleased to meet you. In case you're just joining, I will be happy to put up the agenda again so that we all know what the conversation is going to be like. I'm doing that right away. When I pull down the agenda, I will call on Mr. Lasisi to give the opening remarks, and we will get right into it. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope to have a fruitful conversation. While we wait for Mr. Lasisi to come on to give his opening remarks, we'll move to the next. Get your fingers ready for the Richard card giveaway. Come on, people, fast those fingers. This is our own way of appreciating our community for coming in to spend their evening with us. And I almost forgot, happy Workers' Day to everyone. Your resilience, your commitment to your job is remarkable. Okay, so that's the end. So I call on Mr. Lasisi to come and give us the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Wande, for that welcoming speech. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are joining us. My name is Adedoyin Lasisi. I welcome you to today's edition of Lagos Environment Webinar Series. This is a series where we come up with different issues regarding environment and sustainability in and around Lagos and Nigeria. Today, we are talking about ESG, a key focus for corporate governance, environmental sustainability, and social integration. Why are we discussing this? Lagos, we all know it's the pacesetter for industrial activity, corporate sociality in Nigeria. Today, we want to discuss how generally corporate organization, individual are key into ESG and how we are using it in various forms of life. Thank you for joining us. You are all welcome.
Okay, before we start, I'd just like to mention that due to unforeseen circumstances, our keynote speaker is unavoidably absent. So there'll be no keynote presentation for this series, and we do apologize about that. However, before we start the panel session, what we're going to do is I'm going to launch a poll now on your screen, and this is just to test our knowledge, if you like it, just so that we set the pace and the tone for the conversation before we start right ahead. So I will launch the poll now, and please go ahead and fill. Thank you. I'll give it another minute. Only 40% of participants have responded, so I'm going to give you a bit more time so that we can get a good number. Please, it's not an exam or anything. It's just really to test your knowledge. So please just feel free, enjoy yourself. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll now. We're past the 2 minutes mark. End poll, and I will share results. So everyone says that they're moderately familiar with ESG. For the second question, most of the respondents say that all of the criteria are critical. All of the respondents say that all of the criteria are critical. And then for the third question, everyone responded yes to that. So this just gives us a good idea of where everyone's knowledge is with the term. Thank you. So I'll stop sharing now. You're ruining my program, literally. Eh? Please.
Today we'll be discussing about environmental, social, and governance, also known as ESG. In this video, we'll explore what ESG is, why it is important, and how business can incorporate it into their operation. First and foremost, what is ESG and what does it actually entail? ESG refers to the three key factors that measure the sustainability and ethical impact of companies' operation. E stands for the environmental factor, while S stands for social factor, while G stands for governance factor. Environmental factors such as how the company interacts with the natural world, which include their carbon footprint, waste management, and resource conservation. The social factor encompasses how a company treats its employee, the customers, and the communities. It also includes human rights and community engagement. While governance factors center around the internal system and structure that governs a company decision-making process, such as board diversity, executive compensation, and transparency. Now, why should a company integrate ESG principle into its business? Now, it has shown that companies that patronize ESG are better positioned to attract and retain top talents, enhance brand reputation, and mitigate risk associated with environmental and social issues. Also, consumers and investors are increasingly looking for companies that demonstrate a commitment to sustainability and ethical practice, making ESG a key determinator in today's competitive landscape. So, how does a company incorporate ESG into its operation? It all starts with a commitment from senior leadership to integrate ESG consideration into the strategic decision-making of the company. This is by setting ESG goals, implementing ESG policy and procedure, and regularly reporting ESG performance to stakeholders. Companies can also engage with ESG-related agencies and indexes to benchmark their performance against industrial peers and drive continuous improvement. It is a fundamental shift in how business operates in the 21st century. By putting environmental, social, and governance factors, companies can create value for all stakeholders while contributing to a more sustainable and equitable society. Whether you are a business leader, investor, or consumer, remember that ESG matters and how the power to drive positive change in the world. Thank you. And join us on May 1st.
Hi again, everyone. So conversation is ESG in emerging markets, challenges and opportunities. As we've already seen from the video, it's been widely recognized that emerging markets have become an important driver of the global economy, thanks to a rapidly growing middle class and its increasing economic diversity and improved ESG disclosure. However, emerging markets, which is home to a diverse mix of sectors, are now or should be better supported by robust service sectors and rapidly and improved disclosures in their claims. Without further ado, I will bring up my panelists to help drive into this topic and shed more light for everyone to learn. The first panel member is Manuel John. He's a passionate sustainability professional with legal background and deep expertise in environmental, social, and governance framework. He holds a bachelor degree in law and a master's in law, digital innovation, and sustainability with a specialization in climate change. Currently serving as a sustainability and innovation consultant at Asol Holding, he focuses on green investments, ESG strategies, and climate policy. Manuel is a legal advisor at Climate Actions and regional researcher for Eastern Europe, Mediterranean, and Sub-Saharan Africa at Louis University. He actively contributes to Sahel Solidaire 24, Young GO, and UNDP Youth for Climate, advancing sustainable solutions across Sub-Saharan Africa and the Mediterranean and Eastern Europe. My second panel member is Khadija M. Williams. Khadija is an environmental and sustainability professional with experience in delivering solutions to stakeholders in the area of planning, compliance, assurance, reporting, and due diligence. Her experience encompasses building capacity and understanding of environmental and sustainability issues in various settings. Khadija has held roles at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Australia, and National Australia Bank, one of the big four banks in Australia. She also served as a sustainability and ESG subject matter expert at Royal Automobile Club of Victoria, where she developed a sustainability implementation plan for the organization and translated ESG and sustainability regulation implications for the organization to ensure compliance. Khadija currently runs Sustainitious Co., a sustainability and ESG outlet for organizations. Sustainitious Co. is dedicated to providing the tools and knowledge necessary for organizations to navigate the complexities of sustainability and ESG standards in Nigeria with a global outlook. Can I ask my panel members to please turn on their cameras? Thank you. Hi. Okay. Thank you so much for coming to spend your evening with us at EcoEnviroTalk. We do appreciate. So just for icebreaker, I'm going to please ask that you please describe your experience as an ESG professional, particularly highlighting a project that you're proud of. Whoever is most comfortable to go first can open up their mic and go ahead to speak. Thank you. Khadija?
Fine, happy to go first. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and thank you for having me, Wendy and Mr. Lasisi. I'm currently recovering from malaria and a cough and a cold, so my voice is a bit off, but I'll try to speak as audibly, succinctly, whatever as I can. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to add to the profile that you read out one day. So a lot of my job roles in the sustainability space has been in ESG. So like Wendy said earlier, I worked in a bank where my role was mainly focused on ESG risk management. So ensuring that the bank's customers, the bank's performance was within the bank's overall risk appetite. So whatever, and then within that risk appetite, ensuring that the ESG performance of the bank and its customers were within that appetite as well. And then I moved into consulting, and then I moved into like a very quintessential Australian company. If I had to highlight something that would be one of the highlights of my career, it wouldn't be, I don't think it would be what you think. So at PwC, we had these employee resource groups. So think about it like extracurricular, but in the big adult world. So it was things where it was this thing called cultural connections. So I was in Australia, I'm a Black person, I'm Nigerian, I'm Muslim. So I was basically a minority there. So we had this group that would basically bring people of different cultural backgrounds, of diverse cultural backgrounds together. And I headed that in Melbourne, Australia, where I was. And for me, that was really a highlight of my career and something that I'm proud of because one, I revamped that employee resource group in Melbourne. We were able to get people to bring their whole selves to work. You can imagine a country where, I don't know if there's other Muslims on the call, but like, or I'll say Muslims particularly because being a Western country, there wasn't like allowance, for example, and I'm using this, I'm taking liberty with the word allowance. There wasn't allowance really to celebrate things like Salah the way you wanted to. So this group basically helped to bring an understanding of like these culturally diverse holidays to the firm as a whole, get people to understand what it is, and then get people to actually, people who are Muslims to be proud of, these events that happen, and to celebrate it, like to not to be afraid to say, oh, okay, I need to go and pray, and then I'll come to work after praying, after doing like Salah prayer. So things like that. It was, so I'm happy that I was a part of that resource group because I really got to help people bring their whole selves to work, to be proud of their heritage, and to educate other people as well about these different diverse holidays. So I use Salah because I'm a Muslim, but we brought awareness to other things. So like things like Chinese New Year, holidays that were indigenous to people from India and other Southeast Asian countries. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. That's actually very interesting. I think I'll be proud of that sort of achievement as well. Yeah, so Manuel, please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm sure you can hear me.
Absolutely, we can.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Mr. Adedoyin, for the invitation. I am glad to be here to share platform with you, most especially with Khadijat. I am happy to see and hear that she works with the bank because I wrote my thesis on the role of banking system on how to help in decarbonizing the sectors, the companies and the markets. So it is a pleasure to be here with you. And I want to begin with who I am. Of course, you have said a lot of things in the introduction that you read earlier, but just to add, my name is Manuel. Of course, I work as a sustainability and innovation consultant with one of the organization here in Rome, Italy. So basically, at first, I was a law student and I was having a lot of interest in law, but along the line, I had to change because I was so much interested in the sustainability, ESG issues. So in terms of work experience, really, I have not worked for a very long time, but for the short period I had with the organization, I have worked on so many projects because it is something that we do on daily basis. But just to make it brief, some of the projects that I worked on, of course, as a leading team, it was a project I will share later, maybe in the chat. We worked on CRDS guideline for small and medium enterprises, because here we believe that the best way to bring ESG or sustainability as general to knowledge of companies, more especially the small and medium one, is to make sure that they are much aligned with the regulations and the laws that concerns their operations. So I worked on it with my team, and I was the leading team among the team that I worked with. So we made it simpler for them in order to understand, really, given the complication of the regulations. And another project was to develop a model. We have a model, we call it a sustainable governance. It's been taught actually at my former university for a lab, because the university is having a lab where they teach the future leaders on how to understand sustainability related issues, and but more especially the governance aspect of it. So we teach them on how to have a good organizational structure, and how to define roles clearly for the board, and also the external executives. So I will stop here. Of course, during the discussion, I'm going to talk more about some of the projects and things that I have engaged with. Thank you very much, Wande. Stop here.
Thank you very much, Manwa. In fact, I'm going to start off my questions with you, and only because you touched on your profession as a lawyer and then the project that you worked on. So my question for you is, so many standards, there's CSRD, there's IFC standards, and a whole host of other standards. And how will emerging markets catch up with these continuous updates to the standards, and how can these be addressed? So first, how do emerging markets catch up with the different standards and reporting templates of each standards? And what is the solution that you would prefer for emerging markets to adopt to be able to catch up? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So to begin with, I want to make it clear most of the issues that we have in most cases is not the lags or lapses in regulation, but the application of those regulations. So I want to maybe use Nigeria as an example, because so far we have a lot of regulations with regards ESG, or in more broader context, sustainability. As I've said at the beginning, I wrote my thesis on the role of banking sectors. And during my research, I found out that we have laws and regulations in place. But really, the main challenges that we have in emerging markets like Nigeria is the enforcement of those regulations. So actually, the laws are there, but how do we enforce it? How do we make sure that the relevant regulations are applied, or the organizations are taken into consideration? So I think the problem is the weakness in institutions or enforcement agencies that should enforce these regulations. And in most cases also, the regulations should be designed in such a way that can easily be adaptable to the companies or organizations in countries like ours. Because in most cases, okay, if we take an example of CRSD, here they have a viable institution to enforce those laws. And also we have different social, economic, and even political realities with them. So if you look at it very well, what sustainability or what ESG really meant for us in the emerging markets is different from here. If we take an example, just an item of the ESG, if we talk about the environmental aspect of it, here they are more concerned on things like climate change, and more especially how to mitigate. But for us, I think in most parts of emerging markets, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, if you look maybe the East African, for example, there are a lot of damage already caused by this issue of climate change and other environmental challenges. So now what we are trying to do is how to adapt the shock, but for them, they are trying to mitigate it. That's why they have mechanisms in place to reduce things like greenhouse gas emissions and so many other things. So just to conclude, I want to say that we have regulations. Of course, if we could apply them, maybe adapting to our local realities, we shouldn't be considering the issue of regulations of law as a challenge for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hear you. So the regulation is not the challenge. It's not the regulation that is the problem. It's how to adapt to it that's what the real concern is. Khadija, same question. However, I want you to please lean in on your international experience. You've had experience dealing with the regulations. What will Nigeria do as an emerging market? What unique role can we play in the global ESG landscape? Khadija?
Yeah, so what unique role can we play in the emerging ESG landscape? So I mean, when you create a regulation from a certain place, you created it with your people in mind. So with a lot of these frameworks that currently exist, they're created from Western countries. They're created with that reality in mind. A lot of the times before, so if you think about like, if I'm not mistaken, like the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, whatever, or like GRI or whatever, when all of these frameworks are being created, they will ask people to come and like ask people of different backgrounds, diverse nations, whatever, to come and give input while they're being created, or if new amendments or whatever are being created, they will ask for people to come and contribute. But what happens most of the time is that people from the global south would end up not having as much input or as loud as an input. And then when these things are created, they're not fit for purpose for us. So for me, hearing that question, the first thing that comes to mind is we probably need to create things that are for us. So we're not having to adapt these frameworks to our own peculiar realities. So Manuel said earlier about how the West is thinking about, or when I say West, think about global North as well. They're thinking about mitigation. We are thinking about adapting to climate change. Clearly, two different realities. From that basis, let's then create frameworks for us that work for our own realities, just so that we're not having to, like you said earlier, one day play catch up to those people. So I think really therein lies an opportunity. Nigeria has a lot of learned people. I'm pretty sure there's people of other, I would like to think that people of other nationalities on the call as well. But we have a lot of learned people. We are also facing the realities of climate change and other ESG and sustainability initiatives. Why not create our own frameworks? Think about how that affects East Africa, West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. We can do a Sub-Saharan African framework, adapt it to us. We can do a whole of Africa framework, adapt it to us. So that way, so that I think is a really clear opportunity for us to shine, if as it were. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Interestingly, that you highlighted that when these standards is supposed to be updated, we don't get a lot of representation from the global south. And this morning, in fact, I found out that the IFC, there is for the updates that they're doing on the sustainability frameworks, it's actually going to, that process is going to last till 2028. And they're actually at the phase of consultation at the moment. So perhaps this would be like a good way for professionals to explore, so that we ensure that our voices are incorporated into these updates, because whether we like it or not, these are the tools that investors use to drive financing to the emerging market. So better we understand this and then get our voices heard on how these tools are deployed in our market. But yeah, thank you so much, Khadija. What I'm going to ask both of you now is, we know that SMEs they contribute the largest portion to emerging markets. And as I highlighted, ESG, this framework, this is what corporate investors, DFIs use to drive financing into our markets. How can we ensure that emerging markets are not left behind? Yes, we've spoken about regulatory. We're not doing catch up. I think I heard Manuel even say maybe develop our own regulatory frameworks. But how do we ensure that SMEs are fit for, are not left behind, and they are fit to be able to bring in or drive this financing that is much needed for elevation in our economies? Thank you. Whoever is most comfortable to go, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead then, since while I allow Khadija to prepare. So I think the most important thing is awareness, because unlike here in the global north or the west generally, the small and medium enterprises in most cases are not even aware of the realities or what is happening concerning the ESG. And even if they do, in most cases, their human and economic resources cannot be the same like the big organizations. So to ensure that the SMEs are not left behind in issues concerning the ESG, and we cannot deny the fact that, of course, the world is fast changing, as we have reiterated at the beginning. So what I think what we are doing here, like the talk here in this platform, is also important to create awareness. I was expecting to see like the corporate leaders here, like for the small and medium enterprises, because without awareness or without the knowledge of things like that, you cannot really do what you don't know. So I will give an example, like what we do at my organization. We have an academic, we call it academy, of course, we call it the ASO Holding Academy, where we teaches the SMEs executives on ESG and sustainability issues. So we teach them, I think, once in 2 weeks. So we simplify the regulation for them, because like here they have a lot of regulations in place. We simplify the regulations for them for their better understanding and consumption. And also we have platform. There's what we call like within my organization. Actually, it was created in partnership with my university. We call it Common Home. We used to have it once in a year. So last year we had it in Rome, but this year we are going to have it in the UK and in Rome, where we invite the policymakers, the business leaders, the banker, and the ESG and the sustainability professionals, the university professors, the research, everybody. So we used to have it for the whole day to discuss it, to raise awareness for people. So I think for the SMEs in emerging markets in countries like us, the first thing is to make sure that they are aware of the situation. And the second thing is for them to try to adapt, because adaptation is the key. They might not be able really to drive it like the biggest organization or companies, but even among them or within the organization, they should have maybe the internal regulations. They could have some things to address issues of ESG at their own level. So while they may not be able to do it big like the greater organization or companies, they should have it. So it's a matter of goodwill. If they want to do it, they have to be aware of it. And it is people like us that could help us to raise awareness. And then, of course, with that, they will be able to catch up with the changing or the fast changing realities with regards ESG or sustainability generally.
Thank you. Very insightful, I must say. Oh yeah, Khadija, please.
I mean, I feel like Manuel and I are very aligned on this question. Basically, I feel like everything he said is what I'm going to say, but just in a different way. So basically, I agree with you, raising awareness. That's one of the things SustainAsiaScore is doing. When I decided to come back to Nigeria to do sustainability, and I was looking for a job, and I just came to realize a lot of people don't even know what sustainability is. Yes, we have sustainability frameworks. I'm pretty sure a lot of us here work in this space. We have sustainability frameworks developed by the government, developed by MDAs, the Fortune 500 companies of Nigeria, if you will, have sustainability teams. But like you said one day, SMEs are really a lot of what makes up the business landscape in Nigeria. And I think something that people don't really understand is, apart from that awareness, is really just breaking down information into what people understand. So when I came and I'm like, oh, I work in sustainability, like, okay, what does that mean? I work in ESG. What does that mean? And I'll say climate change. I'll be like, oh, climate change. But honestly, that's not what I do. Like, I actually don't work in climate change. I work in corporate sustainability. But that was just a way for people to understand what I do, because climate change is such a buzzword. So for me to carry SMEs along, really, it's breaking down information into things that people can really understand. So when I'm talking to SMEs about, when I'm giving training, for example, to people, SMEs, whatever it is, on sustainability, I really have to break it down to what is relatable. So think about your home, for example. I'm sure you can see like the image, this light beam at the back of my closet there. But it's things like, oh, okay, in your home, you use LEDs, right? LEDs are currently the most efficient technology when it comes to light bulbs. They are efficient, they will last long. That means that you're not going to spend as much money to replace them or as much money on your electricity bill. So that's in your home. As an SME, transport that, so basically transplant that to your business. If you use LEDs, you're going to save money on your electricity bill, you're going to save money, you're going to save costs, basically, business costs. So that's really, for me, breaking down into things that people really understand, because one, who are the people that make up SMEs? They are everyday people like you and me. I'm sure a bunch of us here run businesses. So for me, really, we're taking SMEs along and simplifying things and ensuring that they're actually involved in this whole ESG business. I'll say once again, raising awareness, like Manuel said, but also breaking that awareness, breaking that information into things that people really understand, so they can actually not view ESG or sustainability as this big thing that they've never heard of. And when you break it down, they're like, oh, is that what it is? You're like, yeah, like that's literally what I'm trying to get you to do, just to be better. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, both your responses are very much aligned. And yeah, when at first hearing ESG, you think, oh, it's some big thing, but the moment we start to make it relatable, then everyone begins to understand that, oh, it actually affects even my everyday life. For our participants, if you have questions, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat box. I'll come back and pick it up, but I'll bring Mr. Lasisi up.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy, and for John and Khadija. One thing I'm virtually not clear in this part of the country, like maybe it's a peculiarity in Nigeria. If you look around, I'm a regulator. I work in the environment sector, and I go to companies, I go to organization, I just want to have these documents. And like what John has said, we have all the regulators, all the regulations. Are we using them properly? Are we integrating them? So you go to even the so-called big company, the banks in Nigeria, they will have their sustainability documents, they will have their reports. They just want to meet up with the corporate end. But how do we integrate it into our activities? If you look at Nigeria, and especially Lagos, the hospitality sector, the entertainment industry, the housing sector, these are the sector that is growing very, very fast, that you expect that sustainability issue should be key determining factor for the expansion. But that's not what we have. All this sector, they go to banks to obtain loan. But even the banks don't even use ESG as part of the criteria for loans. How will somebody develop an estate that will not have basic environmental parameters, take care of workers in terms of, and even the communities where most of these corporate organizations work, which are part of the governance issue in ESG. So we have the regulations, but how do we ensure that corporate organization, whether SME or the big companies, fully integrate ESG into their practice? Thank you.
I'm happy to go first. I feel like I'm going to put you on the spot with that question and send the question back to you, Mr. Latiti, as a regulator. I mean, see, when I was earlier on in my career, my thing was I didn't believe in the, and probably maybe because I'm in Nigerian, excuse me, but like I didn't believe that you could, like, you needed government to do anything. I just thought if you're a business, you have money, if you have certain values that you really believe in and you really want to fulfill, you do what needs to be done, right? So if you're a business that has certain ESG ethos, you know, you believe in any E, S, or G initiatives, like you're a Unilever, for example, you know, you will do what you need to do. Of course, there'll be limits because you, in the end, I now came to realize that you do need government because government will set that enabling environment for you to do your business properly. So I mean, the reason why I said I'll take that question back to you is that I think I'm now at a point where I don't think the imperative is on businesses to be at the forefront of the integration of ESG into their businesses. I think it's really government that needs to create that enabling environment. So if you think about the plastic single-use plastic ban, for example, when it was enforced, and there's questions around should it have been done the way it was. That's a different conversation. But when it was enforced, it wasn't enforced just because somebody said we want to stop using single-use plastics. We have regulations that are backing the ban of single-use plastics. Like the government could cite regulations that, I think from Nigeria and from Lagos State something, they could cite that, okay, Nigeria has actually banned single plastic. We're just enforcing it now. So the reason why I'm saying I'm taking it back to you is that the government really has to create that enabling environment, but in a way that also allows people to thrive within it. So not just waking up one morning and saying, okay, we're doing this without giving a transition period. So I think when that happens, businesses will now be like, okay, we can't do X, Y, and Z because we're not allowed to do that in this place. We can't build a Magodo that doesn't have the right drainage systems and doesn't have, walkways for people to walk. Nowadays, lots of people have dogs. It doesn't have, bins for people to throw their dog waste, things like that. We can't do that because the government has said no. And I mean, to be fair, kudos to the Ministry of Environment. You guys are working. But once again, I think the onus is really on the regulators, on the government to create that enabling environment where businesses would then start to integrate those ESG values and ethos into their operations.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I think Khadija has made a lot of points, and Mr. Adedoyin question was very interesting to me until when he said even the banks themselves, they happens to be one of the problems. So to be brief, I mean, just to repeat what Khadija said, the onus is on the regulators. And the regulators in this case are not just maybe law enforcement agency, but everybody that works that should be enforcing those policies must do their job. And during my thesis defense, actually, that was one of the argument I was trying to make regarding to the enforcement of these regulations. So, okay, I studied the sustainable banking principles of Nigeria that was put in place in 2012 by the central bank. If you look at the regulation, the law is everything. It has all the elements that will help us in addressing issues with regards to ESG. In fact, we have it for specific sectors, for agriculture, for housing, for gas and oil. But nobody enforces those regulations. So I was saying that, okay, in that case, maybe the bank itself or the financial institutions generally have a very big role to play. Okay, if somebody is going to borrow money from you to carry out a particular project or to do a particular business, the person, it should be a condition that the person must align or abide by the regulations. And failure to do that, maybe next time the bank should not give out money to those businesses, because we cannot be like working on the same issues. The people that are supposed to do the job are not doing the job, and the rest of the population faces the challenges. So the regulators should do their job. Without that, because businesses are always for profits, so they look for their profit. In most cases, they don't really care. But I think we still need to make them understand that yes, businesses is good for profit, but having ESG principles aligned with is even more profitable for humanity, for the planet, and even for the profit of the business. I think that's what we should. So, Mr. Adedoyin, maybe I like this your platform because these are the things that we should be doing to promote this. And I wish that your colleagues, other people too, should have places like this to talk about it, to see how to enforce those laws. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manuel, for your insight. I mean, indeed, it's one of the reasons why EcoEnviroTalk was established, particularly to create a platform where we can discuss issues that are germane to Lagos and then Nigeria as a whole. So yeah, and Lagos Environment Lecture Series is particularly a focus group discussion that brings different stakeholders in the environment sector. So we usually we've had government professionals, we've had private sector professionals, even academia, who come bring their voice in on issues, and then we explore solutions around these issues. And so when we're doing that, we hope we'll be able to do more of it. If you ask me, I think that this topic should be a series, and I mean, maybe after this, we would vote if you would want us to bring back this topic, and we can do it as a series in itself, where we constantly use this platform to disseminate information, create the awareness, which you both have highlighted in the course of your responses. So I want to say thank you so much. I mean, I don't know if we can touch on all of the questions, but in the meantime, what I want to do is I want to amplify the voices of our audience. And we have a question in the chat box. It says, what kind of framework brings the breaking down of ESG, as you have all said, to our everyday people? what successful practices has done this, and where has it worked? Please relate that to Lagos and Nigeria as a whole. Thank you. Khadija, should I call on you so that we give John some time to
Yeah, I'll
address it?
try to answer that question. So I think what kind of framework breaks down ESG to everyday people. First thing, and this is because a lot of people use this framework, is I think about GRI, right? So GRI will state the GRI framework, and you can Google this and you can download it. It's free to download. Anybody can go and download it. So GRI. It will tell you they have different documents. The first one will tell you what it is, what they're trying to achieve. They really explain to you like what the data they're getting from you and how it's going to be used. I mean, yes, it'll get to a point where you might need somebody else who's more experienced to sort of interpret that data. But in terms of collecting ESG data, in terms of thinking about what you can do to assess your ESG performance, I think the GRI framework is very good. So it tells you things like, it asks you questions like, I don't know, how many women do you have on your board, for example, if you're trying to measure something like women in leadership. It'll ask about like your emissions. It'll ask about, what else is there? I'm not going to say because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different questions. The documents are online, so you can just download them and read through. But then what that does is it begins to give you an idea of what ESG reporting is. So if I think about when I started in the last place I worked at before I came to Nigeria, they didn't have any sort of reporting, right? So they had gotten a consultant to come in and like do a baseline assessment. But what that did was really, and then what I also did as well was really getting that information and getting them to understand what they needed to do to even start reporting. So that's sort of thing that GRI would do for you. I'm not really sure I understand what successful practices has done this and where it has. So if you think about where it has worked, a lot of companies in Nigeria also use GRI as their reporting framework. So if you go and download, I don't know if I should be mentioning names, but if you download certain, okay, one day I said no. Look for like the big 5 banks in Nigeria and download their sustainability reports and search for GRI. I guarantee you that in one of those reports you see GRI in there. So yes, so that's an example of where it has worked basically. And I think that probably answers the question of relating that to Lagos and Nigeria as a whole. But yeah, if that doesn't answer your question, Babajide, I'll be happy to explain further if you have more. But yeah.
Manuel, do you want to lean you want to say something to this or?
Not really. I mean, Khadija has made a point already, and that is my preference too. Is more good is good for the emerging markets, because if you look at the TCFD, ISB, and the rest, they were designed for mature markets and for countries that they have a strong institutions in place already. So I don't recommend that. GRI is good.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so I think one of the things with this case is you have to be willing to read voluminous documents, and I think that's usually the challenge that people are not able to overcome, because you have to look at these things side by side, the standards, and then doing like that checklist, because it's really about ticking boxes, but you must have good evidence to show that these things exist. So yeah, it's a lot to consume in a day, and as Khadija mentioned, you're going to find out along the way that there are probably even more experts who have garnered number of years of experience doing this, and that again is why you need to collaborate as professionals. So yeah, in terms of not recommending any standard to anyone, different companies have used different standards to report their ESG performances. And if you just go online, any company of your interest, you will find out that they actually do have they have an ESG report for the year. I think now companies are expected to do this annually. So yeah, you see a lot of companies who are reporting more constantly for different reasons, either to drive financing, to look good, and every other different reasons. Companies do this for different reasons. Another question.
Sorry, just wanted to really quickly add as well. And I'm happy for anybody on the call who's more learned on this to correct me. But I'm also another thing that came to mind that's even Nigerian made is so we have the Nigeria Sustainable Banking Principles. Yeah, so we have that as well. And if I'm not mistaken, that doesn't even really, it's not as in-depth as GRI, as I mentioned earlier, and it's quite qualitative. So it basically it's like, tell us what you're doing in, like, I think there's 5 pillars or something. So it's not even as in-depth as GRI would be. That's something else that you can also look up, and that's Nigerian made. If you want to understand more about frameworks and standards that have to do with ESG reporting.
Thank you, Khadija. A comment here reads, I think beyond regulations and implementation of ESG in Lagos State and Nigeria, awareness campaign is key, coupled with attitudinal change amongst corporate bodies and citizens, because sustainability is everyone's business. That's well said. Thank you very much. If you have any questions for the participants, please just by raise of hand with the emoji, and I will bring you. You'll be given the opportunity to speak. I don't think we can touch on this topic without highlighting how we can balance industrial growth, carbon emissions, protecting that biodiversity, because, I mean, we're talking about emerging markets. They feel the need for our economies to grow. In fact, to leapfrog, we can't even grow numerically. We need to leapfrog, not make the same mistakes that the Western world has made. How can businesses balance these 3 needs? My panelists, thank you.
I think I'll let Manuel go first.
You're muted, Manuel.
Please, can you repeat? Sorry, I think that, can you repeat the question?
Okay, I was saying that we can't have this discourse without touching on the fact that we're emerging markets and there's the need for industrial growth. And it's not just industrial growth at a numerical level, if not astronomically. Economies have to leapfrog from where we are now to the next phase without making the mistakes that the Western world has made. So how do we balance the need for industrial growth, the imperative to reduce carbon emissions and protect biodiversity using this framework?
Okay, so thank you very much. So at the beginning, I made mention that our realities are not the same. So the approach should not be the same as well. While those frameworks set a global a standard, maybe a common languages that all of us could understand, but when it comes to practice and application, it has to be different. So, for instance, I think there are a lot of data either online or web. If we talk about like environmental issues, for instance, because we are not very industrialized like the Western world or the global the global north. In most cases, even our contribution to greenhouse gas emission is very low. So now I think, how do we manage the issue of economic growth and also to make sure that we align with the ESG practices? So first of all, we have to see it as an opportunity for us, because now the world is becoming a global place, is becoming a global village. So investors all over the world, they like to invest because they are business people, and the places like us, like the emerging markets, like Nigeria, for example, I think it could be a very a good a lab for them to explore, to see, because we have the resources actually. We have the human resources, both the human resources and also the natural resources. So they would like to invest, but then we need at our own level to try how to see how to integrate the ESG practice. In fact, I understand that there are no like kind of mandatory enforcement like in country like us, but the businesses on their own should try to have internal mechanisms regarding the ESG practices, to in order to give investors the confidence. And also another thing that we should consider is the issue of finance, to explore the various bonds, like the green bonds, the ESG bonds. So, and people that the issuer could only give it if they see that there's a progress among the corporation, the businesses, the goodwill. So we might not really do much, but we have to try as much as possible to see that we are trying our best in order to gain the investors, especially the foreign direct investors' confidence. I think that's what I would like to say. I don't know if Khadija will contribute something.
Thank you for that, Manuel. I mean, for me, a couple of things. So first thing, sustainability ESG does not mean that you can't be profitable. So I think a lot of people might think, oh, because I'm a sustainable company, I can't be profitable. Or because I'm sustainable, I can't do certain things. Yes, I mean, yes, you can't. But you can do it better, I guess. So that's one thing. The second thing as well is whenever you're, I guess I have this thought that honestly nobody's coming to save us. And that might sound like a very bad thing, but if you think about the fact that we're facing the worst effects of climate change, when I say we, global south, we're going to be facing the worst effects of climate change. But you see here people say things like, but should be the West, they exploited all the oil, they've made all their money, and then now they're saying that us, we should not exploit our oil. You know what? Go ahead and exploit your oil, exploit all your gas, use everything, destroy the earth. But you're going to face the consequences. That's just the truth. So I think we need to be smart with mixing business and profits, right? What can we do with what we currently have, with the current situation that we're in? If you decide that, okay, you want to start your business tomorrow, and your business is a gas business, right? People are flaring gas, or even in, I mean, Lagos, if you drive down, they are flaring gas off there. But think about the fact that people in the West, and this brings me back to that point of nobody's coming to save you. Even the West that's buying your gas, they are currently building their renewable energy capacity. So even though they're using your gas right now, they're looking at your gas as a transition fuel. So that means that in a few years, they're not going to need your gas anymore. So if your motivation for building a gas business was making money, in a few years, you're going to stop making that money, and you have destroyed the earth, and you make your life more miserable for yourself, whereas in the whatever global south country that you're in. So, but if your motivation is, oh, I want to go into the gas business to maybe provide energy to people who don't have that energy, and also to make money, well, why don't you think about a renewable energy business instead? So you're doing two things, you're achieving your aim, but using a sustainable business model. So I think we need to think about like what opportunities are available to us in this current state that we're in, and do those instead of saying, oh, well, people have done these things, so always do that same thing. You're just, what's that thing? Biting the hand that feeds you. Like, what's that? Cutting your nose to spite your face, that sort of thing. Like, you're just digging yourself into another hole that, once again, people who did the thing that you want to now be doing will abandon you again. So yeah, I hope that's been a clear enough answer.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I saw that Mr. Dio's hand, Mr. Adedayo Fatumisi's hand was up earlier, so you can please go ahead and ask your question, and then Asen, you would go next. So yeah.
Yes, I want to appreciate our panelists, Mr. Khadija. Thank you for enlightening us on the ESG and its components. You see, most companies, this ESG still sounds like a buzzword to them. While many companies are complying with the components of the ESG, we have data scarcity and even tracking issues. Very recently, I was trying to cut down on my weight. For some days, I will be eating some very friendly food that will help me cut down on weight. At some other time, I lose focus and eat some big bowl of pounded yam. And one day my wife asked me, he said, "You are trying to cut down on your weight, but you don't have a scale. How do you track the progress of your of this weight toning activity?" Then I realized that while many companies also are incorporating this element of ESG, there are no data and there are no tracking elements like either Excel, either some softwares and all of that. Can I ask, are there softwares apart from using Excel to track, to tick the boxes whether companies are complying with some of these elements of the ESG? Are there other kind of softwares or whatever that we can use to track our progress, whether we are complying or not? Thank you.
Manuel, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I think the question is very, very important, and in fact, you have touched on one of the most disturbing issue that we have, especially in emerging markets, concerning the data availability. So you cannot really tell if you don't have the data, and we cannot have the data if we don't start the practice. So that is the problem. So how do we get data if we are not practicing it? And how sure are we that the data are accurate? That is why here in the global north, maybe in Europe, for instance, they have mechanisms in place, and one of the mechanisms is auditing, because they have third-party auditing. In fact, they have many of them in place to check the organization's reporting, to ensure that what they are writing or what they are reporting is really what is happening. Otherwise, the chances of greenwashing is very high. So if there's no check, if there's no auditing, everybody can write anything and present as ESG or sustainability reporting. So in our case, I don't know, but maybe what we need to do is to, as I've said at the beginning, it should be a matter of goodwill. Okay, the organization, even without the mandatory ESG disclosure in place, they have to do it on their own, just for repetition and also to gain the investors' confidence. So they need to report it, even now that there's no mandatory this thing in place. They have to be doing it, and we can't say that the reports or the data are going to be accurate. Of course, it will not be accurate, but we have to start from somewhere. We need to have the data, even if they are not accurate. Then with time, we could have mechanisms in place to ensure that the data that we will be getting or the reports are accurate. I think that is just my perspective about your question. So I don't know if Khadija will have a different thing to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Adedayo. So to be sure I understand the question, you're asking if there's any reporting tools apart from Excel that can help to...
Yes, to track progress.
Yeah. Yes. So the short answer is yes. Excel is also good, but there's other tools. I don't know if they are being used here. I would like to think that at least the bigger organizations who have more funds will be able to access these tools. So without mentioning names too much, IBM has a sustainability reporting tool. I believe it's more environmental, but yes. So IBM has one. It's not called the IBM tool, but if you Google them, they have one. They bought a company that basically does that sustainability reporting. I know at least two, but I didn't use them here. I used them when I was in Australia. So, and the one that we used was mostly for environmental reporting. So emissions and things like that. But honestly, if you're able to, once again, I'll mention GRI because I've mentioned it before. If you're able to use that as a way to track your performance, I don't necessarily see a problem with it. So for me, it's not necessarily about, reporting tools make things easier, but are they the only way to go? No. Should they be the only way to go? I don't think so either. I think as long as you recognize what needs to be reported, what needs to be captured, and you're capturing it correctly, and as Manuel said, you then get a third party to come in and do verification, do audits, I think that's fine. Yeah, I hope I've answered the question, the main question, Mr. Adedayo.
Thank you very much. In fact, both your questions, I had light bulb moments when you both were answering the questions. I see the opportunity for businesses. If you're entrepreneurial, there's an opportunity to set up an ESG auditing firm. If you have technology instincts, you can most definitely create softwares that can help create a software, just like Khadija mentioned, where a big company can then buy your company over, and then you can retire off at the Canary Islands or something. So yeah, those were very good insights, and those were my light bulb moments. I hope that someone will pick this up as a space, because definitely there is a gap. Yes, data. Thank you very much, Mr. Dayo, for bringing that up. Just trying to ensure that it's a balanced conversation. So I have tons of questions for the panelists, but I want to ensure that my audience too are part of the conversation, so it's not so much as a monologue. I'll bring them, Asen, up to ask his question, and I think at that I'll come back to my panelists to give their last words, and I think that we can call it a day on this panel session. I'm thinking that this should be more of a series, so we can bring more people and have more professionals rub minds. But yeah, then Nathan, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the very wonderful session. It has been quite insightful over here. So, interestingly, the last speaker, asked the last part of his question, almost took over what I was going to say, but I was going to say it anyway. So, I appreciate that one of the earliest questions you asked was how small businesses in Africa can, basically integrate ESG and sustainability into their businesses. And I also appreciate that one of the biggest problems for small businesses, one of the things that is preventing small businesses to, integrate ESG and sustainability in their operations is due to lack of technical capability, people with ESG experience and all of that. And sometimes they really can't hire people, with those sort of expertise. And recently, what we have tried to do in my organization is to sort of train or even build capacity of our staff to so that they can sort of fill in the gap. But a big challenge we had with learning is that when you go over the knowledge market and you try to learn, one very prominent thing that I experienced was that it looks now as if data science is now coming before the knowledge of ESG and sustainability. So I don't know, could you just explain, could our panelists just explain to us what is like the journey towards learning? Is it data science before ESG, or is it what is the mix? If that is clarified, I'm very excited. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I think I need a bit of clarification. So when you say data science coming before ESG, what do you mean exactly? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that. So if you clarify that, that might help me with my response.
Okay. Thank you, Hadija. So it's like if you go online and you're trying to find out how do I learn, how do I become an expert in sustainability and ESG, they will tell you have to go and learn Python, you have to go and learn SQL before you come back to the frameworks. So my question really is, how much of ESG and sustainability today is data science?
That is a good question. I don't know. Is my answer to that question. And I don't know because, so I can talk about my own experience and how I got into sustainability and ESG. So I have a chemical engineering degree, and it was while I was studying that they introduced us to sustainability. And because I didn't want to work for an oil and gas company, I did my master's in environment and sustainability, and I've been working in the space ever since. That said, I understand what you mean by having other skills, because as a sustainability professional, what my master's did for me was, I guess, that base knowledge in sustainability. So like understanding the principles, understanding frameworks, understanding how to apply them, understanding what sustainability and ESG even is to begin with. And also like developing my knowledge, my passion, for it. When it now came to like practical work, you still need your math skills, you need your reasoning skills, you need your analysis skills, you need like, you're not just going, it's not like, oh, I directly took everything from uni and just dumped, and then that was like dumped into work. No. I still had to like, at my last job, I helped them, like I developed a reporting tool using Excel. So like, you still need those skills. But in my own experience, what I would say is, I wouldn't, if I was starting out if I didn't know anything about sustainability, I don't think my first step would be learning Python or SQL, or any coding language. I can apply that coding language in any business. But do I understand what sustainability is? Like, do I understand what it's trying to achieve? I think that for me, understanding that foundation is first, and then I can now apply whatever specific skill I have to then to sustainability as a practice. I hope that makes sense. If we take it back to, for example, the reporting tool. So if one of us here has, mad coding skills, create that report. So you can use that skill that you have to create a reporting tool that basically says that, okay, for example, emissions, if you can put in the formulas into your tool that helps to calculate emissions. But if you don't even know what emissions are, if you don't even know how they are measured to begin with, if you don't even know where emissions come from, you're not going to be able to apply your analysis or SQL or coding skills in the first place. So for me, it's really, I would say, understand the basics, and then you can apply whatever extra skills you have. I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Okay. Can I say something?
Absolutely. Manuel, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I mean, Khadija has answered that. So, like, which one to go for first should be a matter of choice. But however, like if we talk about greenwashing today in sustainability, is not only in reporting, even in status, because so many people today, they like in most cases they refer to themselves as ESG or sustainability expert. But how did you become an expert? Because actually, in most cases, if you went through an academic process, I did a master's degree in law, digital innovation, and sustainability. So from the name of the course already, I had to learn some basic of data science. So that is that. Another thing, all the expertise, but if you have the ability to have it, of course, it's good. That's why we encourage, if you take an element of the ESG, the governance, we advocate for the diversity of the board. Not diversity, not in terms of race, in terms of gender, but also in terms of discipline. So if the company have the capacity, you need people with different expertise or knowledge in order to carry out the task. So if you have an ESG expert or sustainability expert, it's good to have a data scientist as well, because each and every person will have a different role to play. So that is just my contribution. But most of the answers, I think Khadija has responded to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Final question, and so I'll read the question. I just found it in the chat box. The ESG framework. Sorry about that. The ESG frameworks are non-financial tools or mechanisms. Do you see the tools transitioning to financial mechanisms?
%100%. In fact, if you think about ISSB, for example, like that has history in finance. And I'm not very happy about it either, because like I don't have a finance degree, and I feel like all the finance people are going to take my job and like run with it. But I mean, right before I came, the Australian government was already working on making climate-related disclosures mandatory in Australia, and it was being heavily driven by Treasury. Who runs Treasury? Finance, like the finance people. Australian, I mean, when I say Treasury, I mean Australian Treasury. That's finance people. So yes, it's non-finance. So I guess the answer is two things. Like, it's sustainability reporting is at the moment seen as non-financial reporting, but more and more it informs the financial performance of an organization. So a lot of companies nowadays, I don't know if that's happening here, I would like to think that it is, are really trying to figure out how their accountants, all of those people, can actually be feeding into the reporting of sustainability reports. And that's also because people are now also looking at integrating their reporting. So not just having your annual reports as a standalone and your sustainability report as a standalone, they're now integrating them. So you're going to be reporting even at the moment, you already report financial information in your sustainability reports. Sometimes your annual reports, maybe not, maybe some sustainability information, but not obviously. But yeah, I mean, I've said a lot of things, and I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but the answer to that question is 100%. Finance is basically taking over sustainability reporting, and if that's your skill set, well done, and I'm slightly jealous of you.
John, do you want to say anything to this?
I mean, nothing much, because Khadija has responded to it. I just want to say that, of course, financial reporting existed initially, because you cannot do business without financial reporting, the government had to take a tax, a tax. But now, like in Europe, we have an agency we call EFRAG, European Financial Reporting Advisory Group. In fact, they are the one, I think they are one of the agency in charge of enforcing the CRSD. So you can see that both have to go together. I think that's just my brief comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think without even thinking too hard about it, even as sustainability professionals, it's becoming more aware that you need a business degree certificate sort of to be able to adjust to the evolving climate, so that you are a one-stop shop sort of, so that then again, like Khadija said, you don't have someone else taking your job. So when you are approached for business, you can come up as a boutique sort of, where you are able to offer array of businesses. And may I just lean into Bem's question as well? Where do I start off? Do I learn the data science side or not? So, I mean, sustainability is not just about environment that we are becoming more aware of, and we need an array of skill sets to be able to adapt and be able to offer good quality services to businesses. I want my panelists to take a break just to catch their breath. So what I'm going to do now is I will put up the second poll for this session. But it's because everything that we've spoken about is still fresh in our minds. It's a feedback poll. I want to hear from you what your experience was like, and when we're done with the poll, I'll come back to my panel to give their final words. The question, while I'm setting up the poll, the question that I want for you to please come back and speak to us on your final words is: is ESG complementing or conflicting for an emerging market? Thank you. So I'll just go right ahead and launch the poll. I believe everyone can see the poll on their screen. So please go ahead, respond. Just want to take your feedback on how you enjoyed the session. And yeah. So on 2 minutes mark, I would disable the poll and then launch the results. Thank you. We're past the 1 minute mark. Only 9 people have responded. Please, this is feedback. It will help us to design more sessions that would be valuable to you. And also for data purposes, you know how we're talking about data collection. We need this data as well to grow as an organization and help ensure that we're doing the right thing. Thank you. Okay, it's past the 2 minutes mark. Only 21 people have responded out of 54. That is still poor. If I can get to 50%, please, I'll be very grateful, and I'll stop sharing. So please, more people, please, just please fill the poll so that we can get your feedback. Thank you. Okay, the poll ended at 3 minutes and a second, and just want to say thank you to everyone for your time. So yeah. So these are the results. Generally, everyone is satisfied. How relevant did you find it? Extremely relevant. Thank you very much for your feedback. So yeah, my panel members, I believe that you're ready for me. So Khadija, I see that your video is turned on, so I'm guessing that you're ready to give your final words. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Mr. Lasisi, for having me today. I've actually enjoyed the conversation. I'm typically afraid of panels because I'm like, I feel like I don't know anything. So, and I prefer asking questions because that way I put other people on the spot. But thank you for today and for this conversation. I will say, so is ESG conflicting or complementary in emerging markets? It can be both, but in my own perspective, I would say it is complementary. I think once again, we've discussed this earlier. If you think about people who would say things like, for example, and this is a valid concern, people would say things like, well, I haven't eaten, and you're asking me to stop using firewood, for example, to make food, or you're asking me not to burn plastic to make fire so I can cook for my family. Those are very valid concerns. But the other side to that conversation is, have you thought about the health impacts of what you're doing? Have you thought about the environmental impacts, which will end up impacting your health of those practices that you're doing? And all of that, I mean, as you all know, as ESG professionals, as sustainability professionals on the call would know, all of that feeds into the general broad ESG or sustainability movement. So, I mean, it's a journey. We're not there yet. We're a developing country. We have a lot of work to do, but we need to start where we are. Like, what do we have right now that can help us be better and can help us achieve the right outcomes for ourselves and for future generations? Solar is I think the word is democratized at the moment. It's expensive, but it's it's one of the renewable energy technologies that have been able to be used by people in the last mile, as it's called. So how do we, ensure that solutions like that proliferate throughout the entire country? So once again, I mean, it's complementary. We need to do what we need to do to ensure that we're not always playing catch up. We're not going to be left behind. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, Khadija, for your words. Manuel. Manuel, you have the floor. Please go ahead.
Can I go ahead?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let me begin by thanking Mr. Adedoyin for the invitation. I'm grateful because the platform is filled up with a lot of great minds, very important questions. This is a common home, so we really need platforms like this to discuss our issues and to see how to provide the solution because nobody will do it for us. So it is our responsibility. Now, to answer the question on whether it is complementary or conflicting, I do not have a different perspective from Khadija. So for me, I see it as complementary because it presents us an opportunity also to attract more investment because as I've said at the beginning, the emerging markets, especially Nigeria, can be seen as a hub, a laboratory hub. So the main issue is let us try to at our own level. Really, we cannot do much for now because we are on the journey. But let's try to show goodwill, to be intentional about it. So with that, we will have more opportunities. For now, we have both the challenges and the opportunities. In fact, the challenges are outweighing the opportunities. But if we are consistent and we keep trying, I believe that we will see it more. We will see more benefit of it than the distance. So the world is changing, and we cannot remain in the same place because we are in the world. So we have to change and to do the right thing. So thank you for the people who ask questions, who shared opinion. I am really grateful. I stop here for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope, I believe this was a very insightful session for me, and I hope that it was for you also. But I don't want to leave you with so much, like we've heard so much, and we already acknowledge that it's constant learning. So I want to share a little giveaway. Well, two giveaways. First, there is the document that I'm going to put in the chat box menu, which I think we can all download. I came across this today, and I thought that this would be a valuable read for everyone. It's voluminous. I must put that caveat, but okay, sorry about that. This doesn't seem to, hold on 1 second. So it's an IFC document on, particularly on this topic, in fact, and I was surprised that there was a document like that. It's elevating environmental, social, and governance reporting in emerging markets. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat box so that everyone can download, have a read. Like we already mentioned, this space, you have to be willing to read voluminous documents. That's the only way you can stay ahead of the game. And without further ado, I just want to say thank you so much to my panelists. You have been fantastic, to say the very least. Your insights, your experience, and just coming out to pour your heart here. I definitely felt your passion throughout the conversation. I just want to say thank you so much. To our audience, we have no show without you because we couldn't have been speaking to ourselves. So thank you for coming in to spend your evening with us, and your commitment to even learning is commendable, and we appreciate you for that. And I don't want to leave you without another giveaway. Also, right after this, before the competition, this event started, we did a mini quiz just to test people's knowledge. So after that, I will be announcing the winners of the quiz, and then will be a wrap. So I hope to be able to end at the top of the hour. So just a little giveaway for you. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you. Pass those fingers. Come on, people. Oops. Okay. Should I bring it back up? See someone squinting in there. Okay, I'll bring it back for 30 seconds. Okay, so the winners of the pre-quiz competition for this event, and caveats, if you're not a part of this, like if you're not streaming in now, please don't call us to say, oh, you saw that you're a winner and then you want to collect your prize. That's not going to be allowed. So yeah, these are the winners of the pre-quiz. I want to say thank you for your participation. So yeah, there you have it. So if you see your name here, please just contact us via email at ecoenvirotalk@gmail.com, and we would discuss how you get your prizes. Thank you. Okay, Prophecy, you have the floor for the closing remark.
Yeah. Thank you, Wande, for this. On behalf of all the participants, we just want to appreciate our panelists for a very wonderful, you can see from their wealth of experience, they have been able to break everything down for us. And even for somebody like me, there are a lot of takeaway from this. Let me just have some of these. Enforcement of regulation is very key. Yeah, as a government official and as an environmentalist, I've always been pushing. We have to enforce rules and regulations. If rules and regulations are not enforced, the whole place will be. John made mention of sustainable governance. We have to teach people, and what everybody have said is key. Knowledge is key. Advocate for something. Let's the grassroots people have this knowledge. It help both government and it also help the citizen. Another thing I'm taking away from this, for us who are practitioners, how do we help the SMEs? So we need to start training, give them knowledge about this, it into their program. And these are my takeaway. I thank everybody for joining us. It has been a wonderful day. Thank you all. I say happy Workers' Day to everybody. Thank you all.
Till next time, bye. Please follow EcoEnviroTalk on Instagram. Thank you very much. And on LinkedIn, we also have a LinkedIn profile, EcoEnviroTalk. Thank you very much. Until next time, bye-bye.
And for those who want to watch it again, the video will be live on our YouTube channel. You can watch it again. Thank you.